Thank you very much. The North Las Vegas City Council welcomes each and every one of you here tonight and hope that you feel welcome at our City Council meeting. If you wish to speak, please complete one of the blue cards that are located on the outside, at the table outside the main entrance and at the podium rails over here. Please give the card to the city clerk. When he call upon you to speak, we request that you limit your comments to no more than 3 minutes and that you avoid repetition. Very nice to have you all here tonight. It's going to be a very exciting night, it looks like. Madam Clerk, are we in compliance with the open meeting law?
We are in compliance.
Thank you very much. Our invocation tonight will be given by Pastor Tim Frazier of Grace Point Church, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance, to be led by Marissa Ortega, who is a daughter of our own North Las Vegas Parks Supervisor, John Ortega. Please stand.
Will you bow your head as I pray? Father in heaven, we come before you tonight. We are grateful for the blessings that you've given to each and every one here through family and friends. Lord, I thank you for life itself and the breath that you have put in our lungs today. Lord, I thank you for our health and the strength that you've given us to carry out the responsibilities that you have called us to. Lord, I thank you for our freedom that has been paid for by so many. That we thank you for loving us and giving us your grace each and every day, regardless of our race, our gender, ethnicity, or religion. Father, it says in the scriptures that you have appointed the governing authorities over us to establish them to promote peace and justice and order. Lord, I pray for our mayor and for the various city officials and for the in particular, the council that is assembled here today. Father, I ask that you would graciously grant them wisdom and discernment. I pray that you would give them a sense of welfare and a sense of discernment for the true needs of our people and the city of North Las Vegas. Lord, I pray that you would give them the ability to work together, even through honest disagreement. Lord, I pray that you would give them peace in their life and a joy in their task and responsibility of leading this great city. Father, I pray over the agenda that is set before them tonight. Lord, I ask that you would give them a measure of wisdom and discernment and grace today and the days ahead. Please give us an assurance of what would be pleasing and honoring to you and what would benefit the people that live and work in this great city of North Las Vegas. Father, we love you and we pray all these things in your precious Son's name. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic by which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Pastor, I thank you very much. I felt more like I was getting blessed there, and I do appreciate that. That was a great opportunity to be prayed over like that. At this point in time, this is the first of the two portions of the meeting devoted to the public. This portion must be limited to the agenda matters. Things are going to happen on the agenda. When I call your name, please come forward. And remember, we're trying to go to the 3-minute rule here. Vicki Higgins.
Good evening. Vicki Higgins, excuse me, medical cannabis advocate. Many of you know me. I'm here tonight to say thank you. I have a card here for you. If the thank you for North Las Vegas were as big as it would be bigger than me. Your team and everybody at North Las Vegas has been the biggest help to the medical cannabis community and the advancement of working on our cultivation centers and production centers. You have 2 teams in front of you this evening that are applying for special use permits. This is one of many. I'd like to support them and all of the applicants that come in the future. Thank you so much for your kindness. As I drove in, I saw the sign, Friendly North Las Vegas. That is the epitome of what we have dealt with in North Las Vegas. That's why I'm here tonight. Thank you for everything you have all done. You've been amazing. You have a good evening. Thank you.
Thank you very much. You've been a very wonderful advocate to work with, too, also.
Thank you.
Do we have anybody else wishing to? Seeing none, we will close this portion of the meeting. We now have a presentation and some proclamations we're going to give. So we're going to go to the podium here and give these proclamations out. Thank you very much. Have I got everybody? I need to balance this out a little bit. At this point in time, we're going to do the Employee of the Month. I'll do the Employee of the Month, and it's my pleasure to recognize the Employee of the Month, and we will have Ms. Woods do the Team of the Month. Jeffrey Jones, are you in the audience here? Please come forward. Jeffrey, out of 1,100 people, you're number one today. Appreciate you. Jeffrey is a parks maintenance worker in public works. He's extremely helpful, courteous to citizens, takes pride in keeping the parks under his care, clean and in great condition. Jeffrey has demonstrated the core values of the city of North Las Vegas and is a great ambassador of the city. So what you need to know is the city council really has no idea who this employee is going to be. It's voted on by everybody that works in the city. So your peers have voted you to be the #1 face of North Las Vegas for the last month. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. So we're gonna never take a picture of me in my glasses again. There we go. Congratulations. All right.
Now for the Team of the Month. This is from our Parks Division. So as I call your name, would you please come forward? John Ortega, who is our Park Supervisor. Paul Mormon, who is our Park Maintenance Worker. Paul's not here today, so we'll move on. Jeff Jones, Parks Maintenance Worker. Henry Buchanan, Parks Maintenance Worker. Steve Berkmeyer, Parks Maintenance Worker. Alan Toth, Parks Maintenance Worker. Is Alan here? Okay. Tilo Acevedo, Parks Maintenance Worker. Eric Frost, Park Maintenance Worker. And Floyd Cortez, Parks Maintenance Worker. And with over 33 parks in North Las Vegas, it takes remarkable teamwork to maintain the landscaping, playground, equipment, and restroom facilities for our citizens. Each individual takes pride in the work they do. You may not see them on a daily basis, but you know they are out there keeping our parks clean and playgrounds safe for our youngest citizen. This team embodies our core values: quality service, respect, integrity, teamwork, and creativity. Congratulations to all of you. And is John Runnix here? John, if you want to come up and say a few words.
It's proud to be part of this team. We couldn't do it without. I don't need a mic. We're proud every day of what these guys are challenged with and what they get accomplished. And I know it's not easy, but we do take pride in what we try to do on a daily basis. And I want to thank everybody for being a team member. Thanks. And also our seasonal help. We have 7 of them, and we couldn't do it without them. Thanks again.
I didn't shake your hand. Sure.
Okay, we have a proclamation here that we're going to read. And if we could have Alex Green come up for a minute. Stand right here. She's going to receive this proclamation. Whereas September 17th, 2014 marks the 227th anniversary of the drafting of the Constitution of the United States of America by the Constitutional Convention, and it is fitting and proper to accord official recognition of this magnificent document and the patriotic celebration which will commemorate the occasion. And we will use this week to praise the achievements of the courageous men who struggled to balance a limited government with the rights, privileges, and responsibilities of American citizenship, and it will also remind America that the Constitution is a living document that guarantees the freedoms Americans enjoy. Now, therefore, we, the City Council of the City of North Las Vegas, do hereby proclaim the week of September 17th through the 23rd, 2014 as Constitution Week in North Las Vegas, and urge our citizens to study the Constitution and reflect on the privilege of being an American with all the rights and responsibilities as established by our founding fathers.
Hi, I'm with Daughters of the American Revolution, and we have 2 displays up in your libraries, and our libraries, I should say. One is in Aliante, and the other one is in Alexander, and they both are on Constitution Week, and they have begged me every year to come back, so I am proud as an American to provide all of our people with the educational tools necessary to learn about the Constitution, because you need to know.
Okay, can I please have Mr. Rafael Gamboa and I guess his entourage? Sí. Felicidades otra vez. Muchas gracias. People are gonna try to say that I really go over the top with stuff, huh? Yeah, this is gonna be a little bit of a big picture. I'm really happy to say, we just started Hispanic Heritage Month that started here on Monday, September 15th, and it's gonna roll all the way to the middle of October. Of course, we're planning lots of really cool programming things here to help serve our Hispanic community. But in particular, we'd like to go ahead and recognize a very special segment of our population. And they actually brought some real Mayan Yucatecas straight from Mexico to help celebrate this. So I'm going to go through this. It's going to take a little bit, but I think it's pretty good. Whereas the Yucatecan community has contributed to the city of North Las Vegas in the economic area of arts and culture, and the Yucatecan community is a noble and hardworking group that strive towards successfully developing their culture, and together, alongside leaders of the Mexican community, they create community programs and activities for the citizens of North Las Vegas. And these programs and activities include workshops on health, education, finance, trade and commerce, among other important matters, and their association, the Asociación de Yucatecos en Las Vegas, has a mission to foster the socioeconomic, educational, and multicultural strength of Yucatecan Mayan culture in order to continue spreading their traditions to future generations. And their goal is to participate in social, cultural, and political opportunities in order to orient and establish themselves as an active community, ready to perform any necessary work for the betterment of our city and communities, and to continue a dialogue between other organizations and associations in North Las Vegas and the United States in order to preserve the future of the Yucatecan culture in America. Now, therefore, we, the City Council of the City of North Las Vegas, do hereby proclaim September 19th as Yucatecan Day. Congratulations. Rafael, is there anything you'd like to say? Or ¿Algo que lo gustaría decir? Okay, pasar como. Okay, I guess they're here to model the. By the way, these are very authentic designs. Of course, the Mayan culture is very ancient, going back 2,500 years, and so we see here the culmination, of this culture here. I guess they'll give like a little tour here so they can show it just a little bit. By the way, these costumes have actually won first place at the very heart of the Mayan in Cancun, Quintana Roo, and so there, of course, the competition is pretty stiff. So we see here the very best that the culture can produce.
Have them walk up to Ryan
Yeah.
Juden. Walk up to Ryan and turn around and come back.
Yeah, vamos a poner la vuelta aquí. Sure. Okay. Okay. Antes que se nos vayan. That one's called the Mayan goddess, the first one. And Kembalam, or Egbalam, the Mayan princess. And all these costumes are, of course, made by hand. And these are, of course, typical dresses and from the Mayan culture. Yeah. Que se pongan aquí enfrente, por favor. I'm gonna dress up. I'll have the Mayan warrior outfit, of course. Maybe not. Maybe I'll get out of the way here. Man, you're still pretty athletic. I think you'd fit really nicely in a Mayan warrior outfit. Yeah, they're. Yeah, by the way, they came. Most of these people came here expressly for this event. Mostly from Mexico. Yeah, from the Yucatan Peninsula. Thank you very much. Encantado. Encantado.
I was working so hard on the drones, and it just went, all that went work right out the window, man. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming and making us a special event. We're going to continue on with the meeting right now. Item number 1, approval of the regular council meeting agenda.
Mayor and Council, we have one change to tonight's agenda. Staff has requested that item number 27, under appointment, be tabled to October 1st, 2014. With no additional changes, recommendations for approval of the agenda as amended.
Great. Council, any comments or questions on the approval of the agenda? Chair will take a motion.
Move to approve.
As amended? Thank
As
you.
amended.
Yeah, thank you very much. Please cast your vote.
Who gave that? Oh, I've got this. Obviously, yes, that was a.
We will recognize that
Thank you. If we got our computer person here, I got this little screen that's talking about trying to do an update, and that's what's.
Oh, you're having a problem.
It's disappeared for now, but I'll let you know if it comes back.
Did it, okay. I believe they've left for the evening, though, Mayor Pro Tem.
And we will stop the meeting if we need to for you. Public hearings?
Public hearing, AMP 0614, Novak 25, an application submitted by Centennial Land Fund property owner for an amendment to the comprehensive plan land use element to change the current designation of multifamily to single-family medium on properties located at the southeast corner of Centennial Parkway and Novak Street. Associated item number 3, ordinance number 2688 for possible action.
Would you mind reading item number 3, the companion items, and we'll discuss each individually, though?
Be happy to. Ordinance number 2688, an ordinance related to zoning amending section 010 of chapter 16 of title 17 of the City of North Las Vegas Municipal Code by reclassifying approximately 25 plus minus acres therein from an R3 multifamily residential district to an R2 single-family medium density district, ZN 0814 Novak 25 for property located at the southeast corner of Centennial Parkway and Novak Street, and providing for other matters properly relating thereto, associated item number 2, AMP 0614 for possible action.
Thank you. Item number 2, I'll open the public hearing on this item. Mr. Gronauer.
Yes, Your Honor, members of the council. My name is Bob Gronauer, 8345 West Sunset Road. I'm here representing the property owner in this matter. We're asking to change a land plan where it would allow for multifamily down the median density for a single-family residential development. We believe if you take a look on the overhead here, it fits in well within the character of the area itself of the existing single-family detached homes that are there. And your staff and planning commission have recommended approval, and I'm here to answer any other questions that you may have.
Thank you very much. Mr. Bruin, this is in your district, is that correct? Yeah, okay. I'm just trying to orient myself there. Thank you. I'm gonna open this up for council public hearing on this item. Does anybody else want to speak on this item? Council, do you want to weigh in on this? I'll close the public hearing.
Move to approve.
I got a motion to approve. Please cast your vote. And we've just heard the same presentation, so I'll need to take a motion on item number 3 also.
Excuse me, Mayor, I think we're waiting for the vote to show.
Oh, pardon me.
Thank you, Mayor.
Great. Is there anybody else that would like to, before I open this to the council, is there anybody else who would like to comment on this item number 3? Seeing none, I'll close public hearing. Council, any comments or questions on this item? If not, I'll take a motion.
Move to approve.
Please cast your vote. Item is approved. Thank you, Mr. Gronauer.
Thank you very much, and please have a good night.
Next item, UN 4211, Vegas Extreme Paintball, an application submitted by Christopher England on behalf of Jupiter Golf Company, Las Vegas, LP, property owner for an extension of time on a special use permit in an MUD mixed-X mixed-use development district to allow an outdoor recreation facility on property located at 70 West Craig Road for possible action.
Great. I'll open this up for public hearing. Do I have anybody wishing to speak? Is the proponent of this application Christopher England here? I don't see him. Staff, they want an extension of time. Can you give me a little bit of information on what's going on with this project? Is this a second extension or?
Yes, sir, Mayor, if I may. This is a mixed-use development, and part of the conditions of approval, they come back for a reapproval. Everything is in compliance with the approval. This is not the long-term land use plan, so that's why they keep coming back for a renewal. It's a request for staff and a condition. So everything's okay with it. It's just following a formality for a long-term plan.
Okay, thank you very much. Anybody else wishing to speak on this item? Then I'll close the public hearing. Council, any comments or questions on this?
I have a quick question. Are they actually in operation right now? Like, we could actually go out there and schedule a tournament between staff?
If you could round up enough staff that would be willing to do that.
Well, I'm thinking about doing Team Barone, and I'll probably ask some members of the our police force to be on my team. I don't know who you guys are going to get, but I think there's some straight shooters over there.
I think I'll get those pretty girls over here in those little outfits.
You win.
Oh my gosh.
Mayor, I would.
Yes, Councilman, the place is operational. Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, I can't compete with that. Mayor, no, I just want to say that I think that, this property was vacant for quite some time. I think this is a tremendous interim use until such time as Jupiter is ready to move forward with their long-term plan. I think this is something that benefits the kids, the teenagers in North Las Vegas. I think it gets a lot of use. I hear a lot of positive comments about Vegas Extreme Paintball. So I gladly motion to approve this item and allow them to continue as an interim use.
Great. Any other comments? Seeing none, we have a motion. Please cast your vote.
Next item, UN 2913 Timbers, an application submitted by S&A Ventures, Inc. on behalf of Than Lewis, property owner, for an extension of time on a special use permit in a C1 neighborhood commercial district to allow an on-sale restricted gaming establishment on property located at 2696 West End Road for possible action.
Great. I'll open this item up for a public hearing. Mr. Garcia.
Suite 210. Pleasure to be before you. We concur with the recommendations of Planning Commission and staff. This is the first extension of time, and we're looking forward now that the bank and the property owners have got things going to be able to get the timbers reestablished and open again. So appreciate your support for the request.
What is Mr. Donner hoping, in a time frame, what are we looking at?
Well, from what I understand now that the bank and landlord issues, this is basically the item, and then they can begin to move forward with the actual reopening and licensing. The next step, of course, is they've got it. The biggest, longest step is getting the state to relicense. That's probably 6 to 9 months to get the state to relicense them to allow them to open. From the city standpoint, and the building on the interior is pretty much ready to go. They're going to do some remodeling, so we'll be ready within that 9-month period of time.
Great, thank you very much. Is there anyone else that would like to come forward on this item? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. Councilman Woods, this is in your district.
Move to approve.
Motion, please cast your vote.
Thank you.
Next item, UN 2614 2804 Synergy Improvement, an application submitted by 2804 Synergy LLC, property owner, for a special use permit in an M2 General Industrial District to allow a cultivation facility for medical marijuana on property located at 2804 Synergy Street for possible action.
Great, thank you very much. Mr. Jordan, I'm sorry. I'll open this up to public hearing. Sir, your name?
Good evening. My name is Richard Harris.
Great. We're prepared to hear.
Okay, well, I have a special use permit in for my property that I've been located at for about the last 15 years. And I think it's a good location for the cultivation facility. I think everything's been submitted and seems to be in order. And we'd just like to get approval for it.
Great. This is public hearing time. Is there anybody else that would like to speak on this item? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. Mr. Jordan, did you have some information on this, or you don't have to? I'm just curious if you do.
I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Yeah.
Mayor, Council, just to give a little bit more information that Trey probably didn't go into. It is an existing building. He's proposing to add a mezzanine to the facility. They do comply with all the separation requirements that were established by this council and also those separation requirements that are established by NRS. The only issue that we've had on this is the parking issue, but because it's an existing building and because they cannot comply with the parking requirements, the zoning ordinance does have an allowance for that, for essentially another use to come in and occupy a building without complying with the parking requirements. They have an existing storage yard that they're going to convert to parking, so they're going to be able to provide as much parking as possible. We don't believe it'd be an issue because they won't have a lot of employees on their site, so we had no objections to that.
Great, thank you very much. Council, any questions?
With that, there'll just be that one entrance off of Synergy Way if you convert the storage area?
Correct. Right now, the current property has the partial parking in the storage area now.
Okay.
So it's just expanding that storage area out, which we will no longer have use for, and just utilize more of it for parking.
Thank you, Ms. Harris. Council, any other comments or questions?
Where is Senator Street? Where is it located?
Commerce, Mayflower, and Brooks area. Mr.
Right by Republic Services.
East of Commerce, on the east side of Commerce. Am I getting my directions right? Yeah, on the east side of Commerce.
We can send Mr. Jordan over and draw you a little map of the location if that's what you're asking for, a little bit better. Okay.
I have a parcel map if that'll.
Oh, that would be fine, yeah. Are you just wondering if it's in your backyard, ma'am? Are you just wondering if it's in your backyard or something? Okay.
Well,
Oh, then that's different then, yeah.
She needs.
well, this one's in a predominantly industrial area.
Okay.
There you go, thank you very much. We've closed public hearing on this. Councilors, any other questions for the approval of this item? Ms.
Move
Clemens,
to approve.
Please cast your vote.
I'm here.
Next item under public hearings, UN 2714, Vegas Valley Growers North, an application submitted by Juma Holdings LLC, care of Mitch Wilson, 360 Contract LLC, property owner, for a special use permit in an M2 General Industrial District to allow the production of edible marijuana products and or marijuana infused products on property located at 6655L Campo Grande Avenue, associated item number 6 UN 2814 for possible action.
Great, I'll open up public hearing. Ms. Stewart, nice to see you here this evening.
Nice to see you. Good evening, Your Honor, members of the council. Lucy Stewart, 2500 West Sahara, representing the property owner and the applicant. And with me is Mr. Burke, the architect on the property, and the Wilsons are here, who are the operators, the owners and operators of the facility. And this is a cultivation and production site, and from the outside, nobody will know what we're doing inside. As you can see, we're building two beautiful new buildings in an industrial area. We're not a dispensary.
We're not getting the graphic.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, that's fine.
As you can hear.
There we go,
Right.
Stewart.
There's our beautiful buildings. We're not a dispensary, so there are no retail sales. In fact, there will be absolutely no customers coming to our site. We will deliver our products to the dispensaries around the valley in discrete vehicles, which will be at staggered times and staggered days of the week. In fact, we don't want people to know what's in here. There have been numerous studies about medical marijuana facilities in areas and how crime goes down, actually, because so much security is added. That's true for cultivation, production, and dispensaries. Because this is new construction, we are able to build into the building the insulation. We're doing carbon filters, so there will be absolutely no smell, which is required by state law. The building we believe to be an attractive addition to North Las Vegas. We increase the tax base. There will be absolutely no signage. And when anybody drives by, as I mentioned, nobody will know what's behind these walls. This is a legal business, one that we hope will provide as much needed economic boost to the area and to the city of North Las Vegas, and we're not asking for any waivers. I will now turn it over if you have any questions or if Mr. Burke would like to present the project.
If you're familiar with the site,
Would you just state your name for the record?
oh, I'm sorry, John Burke Architect, 3471 West Aquino, representing the applicant. If you're familiar with the site, it's at the southeast corner of Hollywood and El Campo Grande. It's right across from the raceway, and this will be on the corner. This is our building right here. We're going to build 2 phases. This is the first 18,000 square foot building. As you can see, it's an attractive but very anonymous building, heavily landscaped and with very discreet entrances to it. Happy to answer any questions, and we agree with staff. Thank you.
Ms. Stewart, did you want to continue on with your
No, we're
owners,
just
or
happy to
you
answer
guys-
any
you guys are
questions.
set? Okay, thank you very much. Is there anybody else that would like to speak on this item, audience? Ms. Higgins?
Hi, Vicki Higgins for the record. I would like to support this team. I think they've done their research, done their due diligence, and they'd be a great addition to our community. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Seeing no one else wishing to speak, I'll close the public hearing. Councilor, any comments or questions
I have
on this?
one.
Mayor Pro Tem?
I guess I just want to hear from the applicant a little bit. We've talked a bit about the fact that Councilwoman Goins Brown and I went to Colorado to see some of these operations, and the one thing that I came back concerned about was on the edibles and the packaging, and making sure that we're not packaging anything in a way that's going to entice children or make it not clear enough for parents what it is. So how do you intend to address that issue?
Marla Wilson, do you need me to state my address as well? 12253 Bluebird Canyon Place. We are doing the production,
Las Vegas, North
yes, Las Vegas, 89138. We are doing the production, which is specifically for oil, not for edibles. So we will be producing the oil, which will be sold to both dispensaries as well as the edible locations for them to produce and package their specific edibles. But we will not only be doing oil.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I have a question.
Ms. Goins?
My question is just to state that it's, I think you said like 100% odor free. I don't know if that's 100% accurate, because when we did visit guests, it was like a 30-second, but just to say that you cannot not smell it, and if it's just for a brief second or something, you know that it's there. Can you address that for me? I understand what you're saying about the filtration system that you're going to have, but just to say it's 100%, I don't think it's 100%.
Well, it's actually a state regulation that.
I understand that.
So it has to have the filtration system. It doesn't, so from the grow rooms to the exterior, there's no direct doors. So in other words, the grow rooms are onto a interior corridor, and there's no direct communication with the outside. So that everything's going to be weather stripped. So the odor would have to get through first out into the hallway, then into another hallway, then into through several rooms before it could even get outside. So we feel we have it covered, and we'll have the state regulators to deal with if we.
Right, there's no doubt state EPA. She just is. We sent her to learn a little bit more about this, and she went to a facility and just.
And I think Nevada is going to be the most highly regulated of Colorado, Arizona, definitely California or Washington.
That's fine. Council, any more comments or questions? Approval
I
of
have
this
a
item?
comment. I want to say thank you very much. I know I've been talking and working with Mitch and Marla since they had a concept they brought to us. And I just want to comment that they've done very well, I think, working with our staff. When we go back and forth, going from one concept and finally bringing it into compliance with what we think we want to see our businesses to come. it's gone from a very utilitarian building to a very nice-looking building. The outside looks great, and right now, when you drive past that corner, I mean, there's not a whole lot of stuff there. Quite frankly, I'd be very proud to see a "Welcome to Las Vegas" sign somewhere near there. It looks so nice. It's almost like a low water usage park setting on the outside. Thank you very much, and I look forward to a long and hopefully prosperous relationship with our city.
Do we take that in the form of a motion?
I move to approve.
Okay, thank you. Please cast your vote.
Thank you very much.
Next.
Mayor and council, if anyone from the audience wants to speak, they really need to come forward, state their name for the record so that
Ma'am,
it
if
can
it
be
has
picked
something
up
to,
as
ma'am, if
part
it
of
has
the
something
record.
to do with this item, the people are here, they can have a sidebar meeting with you. Is that what you're hoping for?
No, I just voted on 7.
Just go on the record. You don't have to write out. Just your name for the record and your
Okay.
address.
My name is Faye Knight. Address?
Pardon me? Your name and your address.
Faye Knight.
And your address?
Yes, 3319 Coleman Street, North Las Vegas, Nevada. I was listening to the gentleman said it wasn't going to be any smell. That's the same thing they said with the Republic trash deal over there on Cheyenne. I was in that meeting and they said there wasn't going to be no smell, and I know everybody has nose in here. So I know it smells, but that's what they tell us so they can get what they want. And then after they get what they want, then it's over. And there's nothing to be done about that trash deal up there. And nothing going to be done about this when it starts to be smelling.
No, and that's a good point. There's the state has EPA, the state has regulations in place. Mr. Blackburn, if you wanted to follow up on that, until it's built and until it does smell, then we really don't have a complaint. It's when a complaint is filed after it happens.
I can know that, but then the public trash can smells.
Oh, no, that's a
there's nothing
completely
being
different
done
item.
about it.
Yeah. But let Mr. Blackburn take a minute
So
to
it's
help
going to
you.
be the same thing.
Mr. Mayor and Council, if I may, part of what the state's concern was that the odor from this cultivation would not, or these types of cultivation would not negatively impact the neighborhood. That's why all the cultivation is required to be within inside a building. All the areas, we again visited Colorado. One of the challenges they've had in Colorado is they put these in existing buildings without upgrading them to model energy codes nor air filtration systems that meet current standards. This building will be a ground-up construction. It will be a state-of-the-art, energy-efficient building. All the air containment areas will be sealed, so it will be able to meet the standards. There will be a parts per million reading, so we will be able to measure the contaminants if there are any in the air. So we feel confident that we will be able to address this technically in the future, and this is one of the best case scenarios, ground-up construction.
Okay, so if that happens, if the smell comes out, you're going to close it, correctly?
No, you'll file a complaint and the state will be called. There are remedies for that. But until a building is built, and you have to prove the odor. It's under their responsibility to make sure they don't get fined.
Yeah, well, I know the trash person is not on the agenda, but it still smells.
Okay.
And nothing has been done.
Mayor?
Yes, sir.
If I just have a moment. I think what part of the misconception is, I mean, I know we're comparing apples to oranges here, but at the trash facility, it's open to the atmosphere. There's nothing to keep those smells from coming in. But I think what a lot of people in the public, and it's only because we have had the opportunity, the privilege to actually see these grow operations. It's not it's not like we're going to have a warehouse and you have thousands of plants just in the middle of the warehouse. That's not the way it works. They actually have containers in these warehouses in which which they do all the growing, and each one of them is sealed, for lack of a better word, against all the rest of them. I think I look forward to sometime in the future when we can actually maybe put together maybe a cannabis industry association could put together, wink wink with that one, can put together an informational video for people to download. Maybe they have a link on our website, just so we get a lot of the misconceptions out of the way. If you actually saw what these things look like, I think a lot of people's opinions would be changed. Thank you so very much for coming down, though, and expressing your opinions on it.
Thank you very much. Mr. Blackburn, item number 8.
UN 2814, Vegas Valley Growers North, an application submitted by Juma Holdings LLC, care of Mitch Wilson, 360 Contracting LLC, property owner, for a special use permit in an M2 General Industrial District to allow a cultivation facility for medical marijuana on property located at 6655 El Campo Grande Avenue, associated item number 7, UN 2714, for possible action.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. I'm sorry I spoke to Mr. Blackburn. It was your turn. I open this up to public hearing. Do I have anybody to speak? Ms. Stewart.
Lucy Stewart, 2500 West Sahara, Las Vegas, Nevada. And I would just, again, agree with staff's conditions and sort of just reiterate what we said on the previous item.
Great. Thank you very much. I'll open this up to other people in the public want to speak. Seeing none, we'll close public hearing. Council, any comments or questions?
Well, and I can say to address Ms. Knight's concerns, as we did the tours in Colorado, certainly there was some smell, but I have to say it really was about as minimal as could be. I think they took a lot of steps to keep everything pretty well contained, and as long as our state's ordinances and regulations are requiring something at least similar to that, then I think the neighborhoods are going to be fine. So I would move to go forward with this and move to approve.
Great. Thank you very much. Council, any more comments or questions? Seeing none, please cast your vote.
Move to approve. Or maybe it's already done for me.
Thank you very much.
Consent agenda. Matters listed on the consent agenda are considered routine and may be approved by a single motion. However, any consent item may be moved to the business portion of the agenda for discussion at the request of any council member.
Mayor and council, the consent agenda consists of items number 9 through 15. Recommendation is for approval.
Great. Council, any comments or questions on the approval of tonight's agenda?
Move to approve.
Please cast your vote.
First item of business, presentation, discussion, and/or approval of the proposed citywide fleet policies tabled September 3rd, 2014 for possible action.
Thank you, Council. What we have tonight is a presentation on our citywide fleet policies. We're going to have a presentation by Ms. Alyssa Reynolds.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Alyssa Reynolds, City Traffic Engineer. Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. Before I begin, I have to say thank you to all the staff in the garage. In addition to working very hard at keeping our vehicles and equipment running, they also put a lot of time and effort into making sure that all of their hours and materials are tracked on their work orders. And without that information, there's no way that I could have gone into the level of detail in this presentation here. So they've done a really great job in that regard, as well as keeping our vehicles running. Secondly, I want to point out that the purpose of this presentation is to provide information from a fleet financial perspective. Our job is to shepherd these vehicles and pieces of equipment through their life cycle process, from the purchasing through the maintenance and repair, and then the ultimate disposal. How those vehicles are used and operated within the individual departments is somewhat outside of this scope. So I want to put that out there to preface these comments. As an overview, I'll give you a summary of fleet operations within our own organization, as well as a comparison to other organizations. I wanted to let you know that we did look at all of the fleet policies, and there are quite a few, but there are 3 that I'm going to present to you tonight, and those include a vehicle replacement, the take-home vehicle policy, and our policy on underutilization. We'll also have some discussion on current fleet practice. So within our current fleet, we have 752 active vehicles. We have 595 vehicles and equipment, and then we have 157 pieces of minor equipment. Those include things like trailers, lawn mowers. We have quite a variety of different items in there. Our operational budget is about $5.5 million, and our replacement budget is $1.5 million. When you start to look at the other agencies across the valley, the one I want to highlight is the City of Henderson, because their fleet complement is approximately the most similar to ours. They also maintain police vehicles, fire vehicles, utilities, parks. They all have the similar types of services. And when you start to look at how many vehicles we have compared to the total number of employees at these agencies, we're pretty close. You know, we have 0.66 vehicles per employee compared to City of Henderson 0.58. Where we do differ greatly is the number of staff members in the fleet departments. If you look at City of North Las Vegas versus City of Henderson, they have roughly twice as many employees in their fleet department, yet their fleet budget isn't twice as much. So there isn't a direct correlation there. And I have a number highlighted in red, and that is our budget per vehicle. And that is stating that in North Las Vegas, our budget for vehicle, for maintenance and repair operation, is higher than all of these other agencies, even though they do have a greater number of staff members. And so hopefully through this presentation, we can start to discover some of those reasons why. So let's start with vehicle underutilization. And my first slide here just describes what vehicle underutilization means, and these are based on industry standards. So a low-use vehicle is one that's driven 5,000 miles or less, and an underutilized vehicle is driven 2,500 miles or less per year, and there's equivalent number of hours there for each of those types. And even though these vehicles are not being utilized to the extent that they should be, they are still incurring costs. We have things like preventive maintenance and oil changes that still have to occur. The batteries go dead from lack of use. We still have to smog check them and wash them. We're still incurring insurance costs on each one of these vehicles, and they are continuing to depreciate. So even though they're not getting used, there is a cost to the city. As far as policy changes on these items, what I have here is a comparison between the current and the proposed policy. And when I say key points, the first one is actions. There are things we can do to address the underutilized vehicles. We can reassign them within a division, we can reassign them within the department, and we can go so far as to look at disposal and getting rid of those vehicles that just aren't used on a regular basis and are no longer needed within the city. In the current policy, those types of actions are recommended. In the proposed policy, we're asking that those be required, that there be a plan in place when we identify these types of vehicles. Current approval process is through the department heads. We are asking to change that to the city manager, and you're going to see that as a recurring theme throughout this presentation. A lot of times from a division manager or department head perspective, we kind of get stuck in our silos and think it's my money, how's this going to impact my money? The reason we want to send this to the city manager is because the city manager provides a big picture perspective with the goal of being the best stewards of the public's money. And then lastly, there are some exemptions that are possible. For instance, there are police bait vehicles that sit out on the roadway and are never going to incur lots of miles, but obviously they have a very important use for the city. Those types of vehicles would be exempted from this policy. In vehicle replacement, there's a theory behind a vehicle replacement fund. The idea is to charge a fee for each vehicle and collect that money into a fund. The money, the amount of that fee is related to the annual depreciation of the vehicle. You put that into a fund, and then ideally, when the vehicle reaches the end of its useful life, you've saved up enough money to replace it as appropriate. In practice, that is generally not the case. You may have read recently about the city of Henderson who has taken $4+ million out of their vehicle replacement fund to balance their budget. It's an easy place to take money from because it comes from, in most cases, from the general fund, and it's a quick way to cut money off your bottom line. So in practice and in reality, it's severely impacted by the economic downturn. It's also subject to those fund ownership kinds of issues. And I'm going to use one of my own divisions as an example. When traffic puts $100,000 a year into this fund, there's a tendency to say, well, I have $100,000 in that fund and I want to replace my vehicle, regardless of what the best practices are within that fleet. So it has kind of a tendency to go in that direction. So as far as changes are concerned, currently when we look at replacement, we focus on mileage, but there are a number of other items that can be looked at, including the age, the condition of the vehicle, and the repair costs. If you have a vehicle that requires $15,000 worth of repairs, but it's only worth $22,000 in depreciated value, it's probably time to get rid of that vehicle. And there are other entities that use a point system to kind of determine that and create an equal playing field for evaluating those kinds of replacements. And there's an example point system given here. For the key points of the policy changes, I mentioned the evaluation. Our plan is to go from just looking at mileage to going to a score system. And rather than looking at it a one-year basis, to hopefully going more to this replacement program and employing the discipline required to build up that fund and creating a 5-year outlook at the types of vehicles that we're going to be replacing. Next, we're going to discuss the take-home vehicles. And to give you an idea of how many vehicles this impacts, we currently have 87 total take-home vehicles within the city of North Las Vegas. 9 of them are within the fire department. One of those is assigned to emergency management, and one of them is a reserve vehicle, so it's available for anyone to take that vehicle home. There are 2 vehicles available in public works, one in traffic and one in roadway operations. Those are, again, for on-call services, and they rotate among different staff members depending on who is on call in that particular week. The remaining 76 vehicles are within the police department, and they represent all different types of vehicles, including motorcycles, sedans, pickups, SUVs. In order to take a look at the impacts of these take-home vehicles, I selected 3 different vehicle types: a BMW motorcycle, a Ford Expedition SUV, and a Ford Taurus a sedan. And the reason that I selected these vehicles is because there's roughly equal numbers of take-home and non-take-home vehicles in each of those categories. They are also have similar ages, similar types of vehicles, obviously, and so when you're comparing them, you're truly comparing apples to apples. And what you're seeing in these charts here is that it is roughly costs twice as much to fuel, maintain, and repair the vehicles that are taken home. When you add up all of those costs annually, it equates to about $160,000 a year to repair and fuel those vehicles. If you add up all of the extra commuting miles, it's nearly 500,000 extra miles. And under our current practice, where we look at mileage to replace vehicles, we replace them at approximately 100,000 miles. So you're looking at annually 5 vehicle replacements due to the take-home vehicles.
Wait. Did you say 100,000 miles is when you're rotating these vehicles?
Correct.
Man, my truck's got 300,000 miles on it.
And that's an excellent point, Mr. Mayor, because when we talk about the vehicle replacement program, that's why we want to go to something like a point system where we can look at the condition to the vehicle. For instance, I drive a Toyota. It's got 125,000 miles on it. If I looked at the mileage, perhaps, yes, it needs to be repaired. But if I look at the condition of it and the maintenance history, there is no need to replace that vehicle. And that's why we want to take a comprehensive look at the vehicle replacement program and utilize that point system.
Okay, thank you.
Now, with the take-home vehicle policy changes, there are some proposed items here. There is a usage log that it is encouraged in their current policy. It says the employees should keep a usage log. We are going to require that that be kept, and there are a number of ways to do that without making a burden on the employees. There is a current distance requirement within the policy. So this already exists. It states that the employee must live within 25 miles of City Hall or other location as appropriate. You have some options here. And the way I see it, there are 4 options, though there may be others that I haven't yet identified. You can keep the current policy, the 25 miles. you can start to look at what the city limits are and the distances between primary locations in the edge of city limits. For instance, I looked at the new police headquarters at the Justice Facility and calculated the distance to the farthest corner of the Aliante community, and it's about 14 miles. So with that, you could restrict the distance to 14 miles for anyone that has a take-home vehicle. You could restrict the distance to 15 miles, and then any other distance beyond that, they have to pay a mileage amount, keeping in mind that that would require some administration. Or you could utilize the 15-mile radius, but make it apply only to new hires. So anybody under the existing policy could be grandfathered in. So we have a number of different options there. Again, the department, the changes here for approval would be from the department head to the city manager. There would be some requirements on appearance. This is discussed in the current policy, but we would mandate this in that it would have to have a city logo and a statement that it is a 24-hour response vehicle. Those are based on IRS requirements. Without some of those things, the employees would be subject to personal tax liability. And then lastly, there are some exemptions in there. This policy does not cover undercover vehicles because it simply wouldn't apply in that case. The next topic I want to discuss is staffing. Because we are talking about fleet budget, this was one area that I would like to emphasize, and I would be remiss in discussing fleet budget and the impacts on our budget if I didn't bring up some of these items. Currently, we're outsourcing about $500,000 worth of work. Now, there are some things that are typical outsourcing, and they are cost-effective for us to do. Those include adding decals to the vehicle, doing body work, performing transmission repairs, doing things, work on the cranes and the boom trucks, replacing glass. Those kinds of things make sense because we simply don't have that type of equipment or expertise within our shop. But approximately 75% of that amount is due to a lack of staff availability. What I did is I went through numerous, over 100 outsourced vendor invoices and looked at each one very carefully as to the number of hours that they worked on our vehicles and the hourly rate that they were charging us. And also included some things that they charge us, such as shop fees, disposal fees, charges for travel, charges for service calls, all those sorts of costs that we wouldn't normally incur in our own shop. And use that information to calculate a vendor hourly cost of $97 an hour. Now, if you use our equivalent available hours for typical types of staff members and compare that to the outsourcing costs, our most expensive employee, who is a mechanic 2 at step 5, who is still earning longevity, is still less expensive than outsourcing. When you're looking at a mechanic 1 at step 1, which is the lowest pay rate within the mechanic pay range, it's a $40,000 savings over outsourcing. That's not to mention some of the intangible items that are included with that. These outsourced vendors are there to make a profit. So they mark up all of their parts costs. We get our parts at cost plus 5%. There are other staff members that are making deliveries. For instance, when a police motorcycle has to go to Harley, it takes 2 officers to deliver that vehicle to Harley, about an hour of their time, and then when that vehicle is finished, it has to be picked up from Harley. That's not to mention the fact that our staff members have to create the work order, call to make an appointment with the vendor, make sure that once the vehicle comes back in, the repairs are completed appropriately, and processing all of the invoices. So it takes a significant amount of our time as well to go through the outsourcing process. And then lastly, there's the dealership effect. I'm sure all of you have experienced the situation where you've taken your personal vehicle into the dealership for an oil change, and all of a sudden there's $3,000 worth of repairs that need to be completed. Sadly, we are not immune to those kinds of things at North Las Vegas. So you either get a bunch of additional items that you weren't asking to be done, or they miss some things that our mechanics would notice because they have all the experience with those vehicles and they know them better than anyone else, and they have a vested interest in making sure that their friends and co-workers are safe in those vehicles. all this comes back to a topic of customer service. And I'm going to call this my vicious circle here. We start out with a high number of vehicles compared to our total number of staff in the shop. Any extra repairs that we have to perform, any extra work that needs to be done, is going to lead to additional outsourcing at this point. But that tends to have a negative effect because now I've mentioned that we have to babysit the vendors to make sure that the work is being done quickly and done completely. We have to engage members outside of our group in roadway operations and utilities and the police and fire department to deliver those vehicles to and from the vendors. And so it's even further limiting our staff. So we are increasing that ratio of vehicles to staff, and it just goes around and around in a circle. And all of that has an impact on the city because all of these vehicles that we are responsible for are what keeps this city running. And the more downtime we have within the garage and for those vehicles, the more downtime all of the departments within the city are going to have. So until we reverse this circle, we're still going to continue to have issues, and it's going to continue to get worse. Now I have a timeline here just to give you an idea of the things that we can accomplish. If we are able to approve these changes to these policies tonight, we can implement some things right away. And beginning in the beginning of the year, the third quarter of this fiscal year, we should be able to have an underutilization analysis ready and be able to give you an idea of where all our underutilized vehicles are going to go. We can summarize our take-home vehicle summary based on the latest data, which would be the 2014 information. We can give you a 5-year replacement plan, and we can finalize a budget based on that 5-year replacement plan and the changes to our fleet operations. If you look at the savings that can be achieved, the longer we delay, the less money we get to save, is basically the summary of this chart. And with that, I can take any questions you may have.
Thank you very much. Can you go back to 2 slides back just so I can look at the timeline? So we'll go over this one more time with me. What are you proposing here?
If we are able to approve the changes in these policies tonight, we will proceed with doing all the data collection that's required for the underutilization analysis and working with all of the departments in the city to come up with a plan to shift all of our underutilized vehicles around. We'll come up with a take-home vehicle summary based on the current take-home permits and provide an impact of those costs based on 2014 numbers. We will work on a 5-year replacement plan that will be prepared for January 2015, ready for the CIP. That's going to, rather than looking just 1 year out, we'll look 5 years out. And with that, we'll be able to finalize our budget in February of 2015.
Okay. Staff, pardon me, council, do you have any questions?
I do.
Okay, Councilman Wagner.
First question is, I thought that this was just a presentation night, that we weren't approving a plan. I've been told that 2 times, yesterday and today. So I thought we were just receiving a presentation, that we are not having an action item tonight. So obviously and I don't have enough information on all of this to make a vote tonight. So I'm not prepared myself, I'm not speaking for anybody else, to make a vote on this tonight. And the reasons are, first off, when it comes to the proposed, right now, the department heads decide, go back to that, I think it was the second or third slide. The proposal is that the city manager then has the discretion on who takes home vehicles or whatever this is. I have some concern about that when it comes to the police department, that I think, I haven't had any conversations yet with Chief Chronister to understand exactly what's going on with the take-home vehicles in the police department. And I wonder, does the city manager know enough about police operation to be able to make that call on what needs to go and what needs to stay? Who needs to have them? Who needs to... I know some basic things, that detectives, if we got something going on in the middle of the night and they don't have a vehicle at their home, then they've got to come down, do some kind of inspection, if I'm not mistaken, Chief, and a lot of time can elapse before they can get a vehicle and get to where they need to be. And the second question is with collective bargaining. when it comes to our policemen and our fire department, I know it's not a big issue. We're talking about 9 vehicles. The policemen are the big issue here. The collective bargaining agreements that we have right now, are we getting involved in that where we shouldn't be? I understand we just did our POA agreement, and I know with new hires, I think we have that ability to do that. Am I correct, Sandra?
Yes, that's correct, Councilman Wagner. With the 2-year extension that we have with the Police Officers Association that expires in 2016, new hires need to move in the city of North Las Vegas within a certain amount of time, and I don't know the time off the top of my head, after they complete their probation status.
Right.
And so I think there are 3 new hires that are still going in the police academy. So you would have an 18-month probation period after that. You had 2 questions. The first one was about discussing or approving. The agenda item is written, does say presentation, discussion, and or approval of proposed citywide fleet policies, but it's always up to the council's discretion. If you have additional questions or want additional information to come back, you can always either table it or ask staff to come back to give you those answers. With regard to number 2 in the collective bargaining agreement, there is no explicit section that talks about take-home vehicles.
But
that's the answer to that question. However, there are several employees in various departments that have taken home vehicles for a significant amount of time.
For a significant amount of time, which would then infer, things like that. So those are some of the things that I have some concerns about. I do like the idea that with new hires that live within our city boundaries, that if they take home, heavens, I love having the Metro police car around my corner, from my house, seeing that parked in the driveway, and I'm sure our residents would not mind seeing a North Las Vegas police vehicle parked in the driveway of their, on one of their streets. But like I said, I still have a lot of questions about certain things and about the costs. I haven't had our finance director's input yet on what are we saving, are we paying, and what kind of overtime. If a guy has to go from here to there to pick up the vehicle, take his time and get, now we're paying overtime, so is that worth the cost of the vehicle? So I understand, Alyssa's given us a great presentation, but I need our finance director to weigh in on what the actual costs are, and I think between, him and Chief Chronister, maybe we can, get some answers on that. So like I said, I've got way too many questions tonight myself to, approve any type of going forward. I would like, if I'm going to make a motion right now, and that would be to continue this item so we can have further discussions about it. I know somebody else may have some comments, but I sure have a whole lot of questions that I need answered before we go forward with this.
Councilman Wood.
Alyssa, I think you've done a great job at presenting to us that this is something we need to look at. But as I'm looking at what you are proposing, I just don't find a lot of detail so that I really understand in depth what the proposed changes are. And I think that's where I'm having my issue. If you're looking at like the take-home policy changes, we have, I get the usage log, we're going from encouraged to required. The distance, 25 miles to be determined. So you need to tell us what you're proposing. I get department head to city manager. Currently, there's nothing on appearance. Now we're going to go to logo 24-hour. Exemptions, none. Now we're going to put the undercover car. But I don't know what the effect of all that is. And I guess we need some analysis on what your proposed changes are designed to do. You've kind of got them here, but they're not explained really well. I'm sorry?
Like you did with the replacement considerations, that's broken down, so it's very understandable.
Yeah, I liked it where you said let's go to the point
slide.
system. And then you gave me the point system. I understood exactly, know. So I think we just need a little bit more, a few bullet points under here to really kind of tell us exactly what that proposed change is, what the effect of that change is going to be, in order to kind of move this forward.
So I think the overall, the changes that are proposed here as far as requiring a usage log allows us to do the analysis that Councilman Wagner mentioned You know, if we know how often folks are being called out, we can analyze the difference between being able to pay them a mileage reimbursement versus the cost of fueling and repairing a take-home vehicle. With the idea of the 4 different options that we presented for the distance requirement, the idea there is to reduce the number of miles that are traveled in those vehicles and the commuting mileage that is incurred outside of the usage of that vehicle within the city limits during its normal operation. All of that goes to reducing those costs for fueling those vehicles and repairing them and doing the regular preventive maintenance that's required.
And I get that, but it's very simplistic, I guess. I mean, the difficulty is of all these people that have these cars, how many of them, do we have an idea how many of them live out either in Clark County or Henderson, or how far they're going additionally? And if we do decide that we're going to reduce that, then how do we affect their jobs? Then they don't take the cars home, or you know what I'm saying? It sounds so simple to just kind of determine a different mileage and go down to 20 or 15, but how does that impact the people doing those jobs? I mean, there's got to be a balance between what you're trying to achieve, which is excellent, but how you implement it
and how it affects city operations.
Right.
Councilman Brown.
Yeah, number one, Alyssa, I want to really congratulate you. I know you obviously put a lot of time and effort into this, and I do really see my colleagues' concerns and kind of like what they're talking about. Although, I'll be honest with you, when I drive through our parking lot, there's some things that really don't have too much to do with thinking about it. I drive past a beautiful Dodge Magnum car that I think says DARE on it, when we haven't had a DARE program in years. I don't think it takes a whole lot of understanding that that's actually a lead weight. That's something we have to cut, quite frankly, as soon as possible. I'm wondering if there's any way we can go ahead and start actually doing an action plan to cut some of these vehicles that we definitely do not need. And while you have a chance to also continue to work on some of the take-home policies. I mean, some things to me, it's not brain surgery here. We have vehicles, again, they're sitting out there rotting in the sun, and I know I'd like to see them disposed of as soon as possible. We're paying insurance on these vehicles. That I think if we added up all the money that we're paying insurance on these vehicles, we could probably put it to something else. I would definitely like to see there are key points from here that I think should be enacted soon. Now, tomorrow, quite frankly. Again, maybe take-home policy changes need some more work. That's fine, but I think we should enact as soon as possible to get rid of these dead weight vehicles.
Thank you very much.
One more.
Yes, sir.
And I agree with what Councilman Brown is saying, but I think we can't just enact this particular policy because there's too many questions. But I do agree with what Councilman Brown just said about vehicles that are sitting here, and underutilized vehicles. I mean, that's a shame. It really is. But now, when you talked about the outsourcing, when you figured in the cost of these mechanics versus the outsourcing, it does appear that the outsourcing is more expensive. But now, is figured into that, and I don't know, maybe this is a question for Director Adair, is that outsourcing or the mechanic 2 cost and the mechanic 1 cost, does that is that salary and benefits and everything we're paying? And then, but then when we look down the road 20 years and we got 15 mechanics retired, we're continuing to pay them for the rest of their, I mean, how does that equate? Those are questions, again, that you don't have to answer right now. You may not have that answer, but I would like maybe Director Adair at some point, when this comes back, if my motion's approved, to approve the presentation and have the city manager come back with a more detailed idea of what we're going to do here. So those are questions you don't have to answer right now, but I'd like some answers.
Mr. Mayor, council members, if I may, I do have some additional details on those items. The calculations for the outsourcing do include salaries and benefits. And also, to be very conservative with those numbers, it's an estimate of billable hours. So I've taken into account the fact that we have a number of holidays, vacation leave, sick leave, all of that has been included in there, so that those numbers are very conservative and would be comparable if you were in a business to billable hours or hours that could be charged out to a client.
I have a couple of comments. I would like, Chief, could you come up here for a second, just so I can understand something? And Director Adair, if you wouldn't mind just for a second, this is some stuff that we just want to get in record, because obviously we're not moving on this except to probably to approve the presentation.
Accept the presentation. Sorry.
Well, I will accept, yeah. Chief, the 25-mile radius, how is that figured right now? I mean, you've been here longer than I have, and can you just give us an idea, how does that work?
I can tell you that I'm fairly confident in our department policy. It's a 30-year or 30-mile radius, and we use Commerce and Craig Road. That's what we figured was the center of the city at that time. Since the the growth with the annexation of that stuff all the way over to 93, that probably is going to change a little bit. But that's what we utilized in our policy manual back in about 2006, 2007. We used that as the center of our city.
So you just said 30, and she said the ordinance is 25. Is one? So do both those policies get entered in here, or do we have one policy for the city? I don't know how this works.
I believe the city fleet policy, it's available on the city intranet, and that involves for city vehicles, but the police department has a very significant policy and procedure manual.
Okay, so that.
And so that would involve police department vehicles.
So we could accept that's being handled properly, both people are handling it properly, okay? We talked about new hires. I think we all agree we're not going to penalize anybody. We've already made deals with people. They're already doing their jobs. Back to this last weekend, you brought everybody back, or 2 weekends ago. And we talked about new hires, and I understand new hires, but what about promotions? When you have somebody who's a new hire, that's one thing, but a promotion for somebody to move from here to there, does it consider in, so say somebody lives in Alamo, way far away, but I'm just giving you an idea, and they get a promotion, the 30-mile limit puts an end to the discussion about a car, or is there IRS requirements kick in, or how does that work?
If you live out, if you live outside the 30-mile radius, our policy is now, you cannot have an assignment that requires you or avails you a take-home vehicle or standby. You can't do it. We've had folks that would like to go to the detective bureau, and they live in Logandale. You can't be on standby. You can't have a take-home car. Same with traffic. Same with SWAT, internal affairs. Any of those assignments, if you live outside that, you cannot have a take-home vehicle.
That's
So Chief, when you talk about this 25 to 30 miles, depending on whether you're looking at city versus PD, is that basically restricting them to the valley?
Pretty much. You're right now. You take into this valley. The only thing that might be right there on the fringe, I know at one time we discussed, I think the only thing that was right there on the fringe was Boulder City, but it pretty much encompasses what's in this valley that we all live in.
Okay, so you're not trying to bring people in from Cedar City or St. George or.
No, right now, you cannot live outside this valley. Our policy says if you cannot live outside of this valley without the permission of myself. If somebody wanted to live in Alamo, the only way they can live there is if they asked and I granted that. Okay. Even Logandale, Overton, none of those. It's not allowed in our department policy. To go a step further, you absolutely cannot have an assignment that requires you to be on standby or that requires you to have a take-home vehicle.
Thank you very much. I think that's all my questions for you, Chief, but you're welcome to, if somebody else has one. Mr. Kessler, Chief, could you come up here for a second? Just because there's some stuff that we can get out of the way right now, because we're not trying to poke into your business, but to explain us your operation, how you do it, and put it on the record.
Yes, sir. We have currently 7 vehicles in the fire staff, 1 in emergency management. and all of our folks live in the valley also.
So do you have your own 30-mile, 25-mile races?
I think we follow the city policy, sir.
That's how you
25
follow it
miles.
there? Okay. And to qualify for this, it's based upon the type of job you have?
Yes,
and
sir.
all that kind of stuff, too?
24-hour on-call emergency response capability for command staff situations, or EOC capability.
Did you have a question? Okay. No, just stay close, because these are great to have you boys here,
Yes,
men here. Darren, is there I know in my world there's IRS requirements. You know what I mean? Is there IRS requirements here? Are we complying with everything as a city?
So, Mayor, if I can, I'd like to take you kind of back to where the principle starts with this whole issue, and that has to do with the IRS trying to define the difference between a business expense and a benefit. And a business expense is anything that it takes reasonably to do your job. So the IRS comes back and says that transportation from where you live to where you work is your responsibility. And if you are given a take-home vehicle or something like that for that business car or something like that, that is a benefit that you receive. There is an exception that comes to that, and that is, when you have salespeople or first response people, if their defined job area is not like an office that you and I go to, where there's a parking lot, what their service area is the entire city's boundaries, if they're providing those services, and in some circumstances bigger than that, then for a salesperson, for a first responder, for anybody, the IRS allows that to be their place of business and allows them essentially not to be charged a benefit or a compensatory item for that. The IRS has gone a little bit further in putting an exception in there for first responders. And that is that I'm not real familiar about that, but I will tell you that that's an exception that exists so that they have the ability to respond quickly to their job. But generally the rule, and I think where we've got a little bit of discussion here about 25 miles, 15 miles or something like that, the IRS would basically tell you that if it was a salesperson or anybody else, that it would be as soon as you leave the city limits, if you live outside the city limits, then your commute from the border of the city to where you live, if that's outside your work area. So your work area starts when you hit the city limits and there. Now that gets a little bit dicey when you've got people living all over the city, and the only way you can kind of track that is with a log or with if they're making a standard commute to there every single day. If I live 10 miles outside the city and I drive into my city range every day and I've got a city vehicle, then if I work 5 days a week, I'm going to have 10 miles in, 10 miles back when I go home. I'm going to have 100 miles, and then you report that on your W-2. At present, we don't have anybody in the city that's reporting that I'm aware of, the last time we looked about 6 months ago, that's reporting compensatory benefit for having a take-home vehicle. That puts this city at some liability by an IRS investigation about our use of that. I think that's one of the things that has come up that we want to make sure that we're in compliance and we're addressing that. There is an exception for first responder vehicles, and so I think the proposal that they're trying to put on the table for you to consider is where do we reasonably want to manage the cost. So the city can actually choose to make a policy that's more restrictive than the IRS requires, and then of course you're safe, or it can be the same, or it can be as loose. I think generally right now I would tell you that we are probably broader than that definition, and I think that's why this has come up on the radar.
Thank you. So that's something that we should also make sure we're doing properly. Do you gentlemen have anything more you want to add? You're not being inquisitioned here, but just want to know. Okay, I think we're done with you gentlemen. Thank you very much for your information. I have another question. The other part of this was fleet services and the staff that we have down there, and I think we've talked about this at a time or two. Can you give us an update of how long things are sitting in line before we can get to somebody, or are we just shipping them out immediately to other repair shops and getting it back? What is the flow and the time frame usually on I know that fire trucks come in, supposedly emergency trucks, you're supposed to get on them quick and get them back out, but how does that work?
So, in general, our priorities are for the emergency services types of vehicles, for the police vehicles and for the fire vehicles. So when those come in, we try to get them out as quickly as we can. That being said, we are looking in some cases at 2 to 4 week turnarounds. And we end up prioritizing what's the other vehicles that we have that
Now,
are,
Alyssa, when you say 2 to 4 week vehicles, you're talking about due to lack of parts or due to?
simply the lack of staff.
Oh, okay, or lack of staff. Okay.
Yeah, we have a fabulous person in our parts department who can get us the stuff on the day of. It's just the fact that we have very few mechanics available on the floor to complete the repairs that are out there. On any given day, we have up to 40 vehicles on what we call our downline, and those are vehicles that are waiting to be repaired. And so for the folks that are outside of the emergency services arena, even though those folks also incur some long delays, you're looking at a significant amount of time to get your vehicle back. We do take into consideration the fact that what the vehicle is being utilized for and whether or not they have backups. We provide pool vehicles to try and offset some of that downtime, but again, those vehicles are taking a long time to get repaired.
Mayor?
Yes, sir. Councilman Barone?
Again, I think this is actually a very high priority in what she's trying to do. I know that we only have one person who's certified to work on our fire engines, which for me is, of course, a cause for great concern. If he calls out sick, if he's out for any reason, right, and we have one of our machines that goes down, that directly impacts public safety. I know we have reserve vehicles and all this, right, but I can't think of a higher priority for our city than to maintain its, especially like its fire vehicles and the rest of the rest of the emergency vehicles in top working order.
But at the same time, I think what I'd like to see is some kind of cost analysis between which the better option. Because if you're telling me that if we hire people, that having staff do this work is less expensive than outsourcing it, then are we better off doing some hiring here in Fleet and getting, beefing up our staff a little bit so we don't have to outsource and can get this stuff done quicker? Or is it still going to be right now cost beneficial for us to continue the outsourcing?
Mr. Mayor, council members, I think that I can definitively tell you that it is less expensive for us to hire folks and bring them in-house and perform those repairs. There's two ways that we can look at it. Number one, the outsourcing analysis that I prepared in this presentation. But also, if you take a look at the comparison in one of the earlier slides between our agency and the other agencies, particularly the Las Vegas Valley Water District, they have many, many more staff members than we do, yet their budget is not significantly larger than ours. And what that tells me very clearly is the fact that they have more employees equates a lower cost to their repairs and a lower bottom line for them. And I'm glad that Councilman Barone brought up the point about Steve Lewis, our fire mechanic. One of the reasons that I'm very concerned about our fleet staffing is the fact that we have no succession planning. Right now, we have a lot of folks with a lot of experience on our staff, which is fantastic because they have a lot of experience. But at some point, they are going to leave our organization, and we have no way to pass on the knowledge that Steve and some of the other folks have within that shop. And so we need to start bringing in some junior members and passing on that information.
Okay, so part of your plan to us, part of this presentation, when you bring this back with a little bit more of the recommendations, I think I'd kind of like to see that, a succession plan and a plan for, do you have a plan for bringing back staff over time?
That is something that we're currently working with the city manager. So it's definitely a priority for us.
Maybe with a little bit of money that we're paying on insurance for vehicles that aren't hardly being moved every month, I'm sure that'll add up.
I think that Councilman Wagner's made a motion. We'll have him make it formally, but I would like to ask the directors, as we look at this for the unused vehicles, the vehicles that we could maybe put in service at another place within the city, use the stock that we have and use it more beneficially for the use of the city, that's something that needs to be done. Mr. Adair, one other question. Would you mind?
Mr. Mayor.
I know you sit on the critical justification committee and you handle the finances and stuff like that. Have you got anything to offer concerning the fleet services or any of the, have you done any?
No, Mr. Mayor, I have not spent time with our director yet on those numbers. There probably could be some other observations in there on costs that may necessarily need to be included. I don't doubt that her observations about costs being possibly lower by doing it in-house. The general rule of thumb in the business place is once you get to a point of scale, it should be cheaper for you to do it in-house than out-of-house. The only time that that's not the case is, if you have a very cyclical demand or need that you can't predict. So you need to have a baseline. Once you have a baseline, you should cover that baseline with in-house, and it should typically be less expensive. You also need to take into consideration supervisory costs. I think there was an interesting observation, I believe, by Councilman Wagner, which had to do if these individuals stay long in the public employment system and the municipalities responsible for funding that retirement plan, is there consideration besides the contributions in there, but also whatever else is an obligation out there, which is a fairly serious issue that the state and most municipalities are facing right now. It's a good question. I'm not sure if this analysis was intended to get that detailed and that complicated. I think it was generally, as she was pointing out, as a general rule of thumb, once you have sufficient scale, you're doing quite a bit of time outsourcing, then the logical choice should be that you should be able to increase some bodies in-house and recognize efficiencies. Not always the case, but generally the case.
When Ms. Reynolds gets done with these requests, that are coming from council, would you mind looking at them? The city council values your opinion. We don't know where that break-even point is, if you need 3 more employees to make that happen or whatever, but if you could just look at that a little bit.
Absolutely, I'd be glad to do so.
Okay, while I've got Director Adair, anybody have any more questions? Thank you very much. Very nice tie. Appreciate that.
He was going to get it. He was distracted.
Yeah, it was tacos upstairs.
Got you back there.
It was the tacos upstairs that got him. So, anyway, I think Councilman. Oh, I'm sorry. Did we have somebody?
Sandra might have something to say.
No, I cleared it up with Ms. Reynolds.
Oh, okay.
Okay, thank you.
So I'll make the formal proposal to accept the presentation and direct the city manager to come back with a detailed action plan.
Great. Just cast your vote.
Is that okay, Barbara? Okay.
That's fine, council member.
Item 17.
It's not to table. Jody was accepted. Okay, we will just note that it passed, that the item was accepted with a direction for information be given to you through the city manager.
Oh, let me just say something. Very good job, Alyssa.
Okay.
This finally gives us something that we can start to really work from, and we appreciate all the hard work that you and your staff put in on this.
Absolutely.
Thank you. We trust the numbers, and we're going to go to work on it for you.
Okay, our next item, release of covenants to Craig Allen Retail LLC and Craig and Allen Condominiums that was required to guarantee construction on half-street improvements on Craig Road, Allen Lane, Goldcrest Drive, on Clark County Assessor's parcel numbers 13906714001 and 13906713000 for possible action.
Council, any comments or questions in this item? Chair will take a motion.
Move to approve.
Very much. Cast your vote.
Interlocal contract with the Regional Transportation Commission of Southern Nevada in an amount not to exceed $180,000 funded by the Regional Transportation Commission of Southern Nevada Index Fuel Revenue Fund for Decatur Boulevard Sidewalk, Chuckwagon Avenue, and to Lone Mountain Road Project, CIP, project number 10399 for possible action.
Great, thank you very much, Council. Any comments or questions on this item? Madam
Yes,
Clerk.
actually, Mayor. I really would like to thank both the Regional Transportation Commission and you, Mayor, and Jennifer Duty for the work that all of you have done. What this project is in fact doing is using some of the fuel index revenue to go out in front of Palomino Estates, where they have wonderful landscaping but no sidewalk. And along Decatur, as busy a street as that is, to not have sidewalks on our side is really a safety hazard. And this will go in, and we'll end up losing some of the landscaping, but it will be safer for our residents to walk across Decatur. So thank you so very much for all of this. I would motion to approve
Great.
and accept.
Accept the motion, please cast your vote.
Next item, interlocal contract with Regional Transportation Commission of Southern Nevada in an amount not to exceed $3,780,000 funded by the Regional Transportation Commission of Southern Nevada Index Fuel Revenue Fund for Valley Drive, Cheyenne Avenue to Tropical Parkway, CIP project number 10402 for possible action.
Council, any comments or questions on this item?
Move to approve.
Please cast your vote. Ms. Wood, that's $4 million in your neighborhood tonight.
Well, thank you. I was feeling left out there for a while.
Next item, interlocal contract with the Regional Transportation Commission of Southern Nevada in an amount not to exceed $500,000 funded by the Regional Transportation Commission of Southern Nevada Index Fuel Revenue Fund for Cary Avenue, Revere Street to Pecos Road project, CIP project number 10397 for possible action.
Council, any comments or questions on this item? Chair will take a motion. Please cast your vote.
First supplemental interlocal contract with the Clark County Regional Flood Control District for the Colton Avenue Flood Control Improvements Project, CIP project number 10267, which increases the funding of the original contract from $5,457,000 to $7,535,000 for possible action.
Council, any comments or questions on this item? Chair will take a motion.
Move to approve.
I keep forgetting we're on the internet, so I'm going to start saying motion passes or something, so people out there can hear, because we see it, but they don't see it. So motion passes. 22.
Next item, bid number 1447 and construction contract with Las Vegas Paving Corp. in the total amount of $7,908, $6,520,133 from Clark County Regional Flood Control District funds, and $480,775 from the tax override fund balance for Colton Avenue Flood Control Improvement CIP project number 10267 for possible action.
Councilman Wagner.
Yeah, Mayor and members of the council, NRS 281A.420 requires me to disclose a conflict of interest. The matter before this body affects my commitment in a private capacity to the interests of my stepson, who's a member of my household. Well, he lives on his own now, but who is employed by Las Vegas Paving. My stepson could be financially enhanced if we approve this item on tonight's agenda. Therefore, I conclude that the independence of judgment of a reasonable person in my situation would be materially affected by this relationship, and it is a clear case to disqualify me from voting on this matter, so I will be abstaining.
Thank you, Councilman Wagner. Any other comments or questions on this item? Seeing none, Chair will take a motion.
Move to approve.
Items approved.
Resolution number 2525, a resolution establishing the city's state legislative platform for the 2015 Nevada State Legislature for possible action.
Ryan, Chief of Staff.
Mayor and Council, first want to thank Director Adair for letting me borrow his jacket and tie. The two items that we've...
For the record, I've thrown better ties than that away.
Yeah. I think I got this out here, trash can upstairs. The two BDRs that we submitted to the Legislative Council Bureau We spoke and talked about a couple different times during the financial summits, but one of the BDRs deals with, actually both BDRs deal with just creating an institutional framework to catch some of the authority and power that the legislature is starting to move down to cities and counties. And so one of the BDRs is specifically kind of in response to more cops and some of the legislative moves that were made last session. And this BDR will look to amend the county section of the NRS that will direct the legislature that as they move authority and power down to the county, that it doesn't stop there, that it continues to cascade down to cities where government's closest to the people. So that's one BDR that we've submitted. We're currently working with LCB staff on drafting the specific language of these, and as we get drafts from them, we will be updating council and sharing with council in briefings the specific language that we will be working on in the next session. The second BDR is a BDR that similarly addresses authority and power as it's given to local government, and it's an idea that as in a Dillon Rule state where the state reserves most of the power, there are instances where power is given to local governments, and in those instances when the legislature has given local governments the authority to act, we believe that, or what the BDR is going to try and do is allow local governments to, if they want to, shuffle the deck or move that power around. That the power's already been granted to the local governments, and that they should have the ability to move that around without requiring requiring a governor's signature and passing both the Assembly or the Senate. So those are the two bills that we're working on. We're also working on, as council knows, we're working on other draft legislation with specific members, and those are some things that we'll be working on in this next session. If there's any questions.
Great. And when you get these formulated and you get them in a kind of a more of a bill draft report, you'll come back and
yes, sir.
Let council know what's going on. Now the legislature starts in 4 months.
Correct.
Pretty much. And our bill drafts have been submitted.
Yes, sir.
And appreciate that. Mr. Milliken, do you have anything you'd like to offer? I know you just came back from the special session.
Mr. Mayor, council members, for the record, Gary Milliken, 8274 Vista, Colorado Street in Las Vegas. No, I'm just here to back up Ryan to answer any questions any of you might have. Special session was interesting. I think it'll take a period of time to see, how effective it is with the legislation they passed, but it'll be interesting.
Well, I just want to go on the record. I don't know who's the chairman of government affairs in the Senate right now. Can you help me with that?
David Parks.
And in the Assembly?
Benitez Thompson.
Okay, I remember that now. It's been a while since I've been there. We're looking to be very active this session. If there's bills that need amendments on it that support local governments, we're going to be there. If we need Ms. Goins to go up there and testify, we're going to be sending her up, or anybody in the city council. Our full staff is going to be prepared, whether we go to Grant Sawyer or up to, but we understand the value of this session, and it's going to be a local government session this time, and we're going to be there and stand next to you or whoever, whoever's doing lobbying for the city or the Henderson or whatever, and work very hard together to get some of these local issues handled.
I believe you're correct in your assessment. I think there'll be a lot of legislation coming out with more benefits coming to local government. I know some people are looking at ways, especially the speaker is looking for ways to get more money back to the local government to do some of the areas where they need it. So yes, there'll be a lot of legislation that will affect local government.
Thank you very much. We will be an active, involved city council, not just expecting all the heavy lifting to be done by others. We'll be there doing it. We'll send our city attorney up, building director, whatever we need to enforce, put an exclamation point on why we need these things. So there'll be a lot of support for the lobby team.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Council, any more questions on these items? Not. Chair will take a motion.
Move to approve.
Please cast your vote. Motion passes. Item 24.
Ordinances, final action. Ordinance number 2682, an ordinance of the City of North Las Vegas amending Title 15 of the North Las Vegas Municipal Code, Buildings and Construction, Section 15.72.230, building permit fees and plan review fees, to add an additional fee to all pool or spa permits issued and approving for other matters property related thereto, continued from August 20th, 2014, for possible action.
Council, any comments or questions on this item? Not, Chair will take a motion.
Move to approve.
Please cast your vote. Oh, mine didn't go through.
Ordinance number 2683, an ordinance of the City of North Las Vegas amending ordinance numbers 1747 and 2602, amending Title 5 of the North Las Vegas Municipal Code, Business Licenses and Regulations, amending Section 5.02.040, semi-annual licenses, amending Section 5.02.100, schedule of other license fees and businesses, repealing Sections 5.02.110 through 5.02.310, A through W license fees, and replacing with new sections 5.02.110 through 5.02.310, A through W license fees, providing for the issuance of annual license fees and assessing new annual license fees to real estate professionals, and providing for other matters property relating thereto, continued from August 20th, 2014, for possible action.
Mr. Blackburn, do you have an amendment to this ordinance?
Yes, sir, Mayor. I have one modification. What it's doing, it's combining real estate broker and real estate agency. And working with Mr. Locatelli with GLVAR, there was a question on how the code read. They just wanted to make sure we didn't charge these professionals twice. So what I'm proposing is we modify it to read real estate agency / broker. For each real estate agency / broker, $200 annually. So that way it's clear. You cannot have an agency without a broker, so we want to make sure we don't charge them twice, so we're on the same page.
Mr. Locatelli, could you come up for just a second? Thank you very much, Joe. Is this how your organization understands this ordinance before it gets approved?
Yes, it is, Mr. Mayor.
And you're confident that you've had enough time to get the message out to your good organization and the people?
Well, that's one thing I was going to read in my comments here, Mr. Mayor. We'd like to see a 90-day grace period if possible, at least something reasonable, so we can get this out to our members. Because the way it reads right now is it would be at the end of the month, this month, which is less than 2 weeks. And that would be unrealistic on our part to think that we can get the message out to all our members in a timely manner.
So this 60 days will give you enough time to do this?
60 days is better. We'd like 90, but it's better than less than 2 weeks, yes, Mr. Mayor.
Do you think you'll have enough time in the next 30 days to get this out to your people, or will you need the 60?
We'd like to have the 60.
And how do you get your messages out? Just curious. Just give us an idea how you'll handle this.
Well, one of the ways will be email blast, and then the various classes, meetings that we have at the association. We'll make those announcements as well.
Thank you very much.
Okay, Mr. Mayor.
Appreciate you. Thank you very much. So you brought me up to 60 instead of where I was at 30. You're a good negotiator.
You are too, Mr. Mayor.
Great, thank you. Also, Mr. Paul Maracan, the new Chamber Director of Government Affairs. I believe that's your title, isn't it, Paul?
Good evening, Mayor. Actually, it's Vice President now, but I was previously Director, so thank you for the appreciate it. Paul Maracan with Las Vegas Metro Chamber of Commerce. Just want to share from our organization's perspective regarding the ordinance. First, I'd like to thank Director Blackburn for his efforts. He spent the summer working with us on the language and helping us notify our members regarding the proposal you see tonight regarding the ordinance. As a result of our outreach to our membership through our magazine, our news blasts, and our emails, we received no negative feedback. So therefore, the Chamber is in support of the proposed amendment and ordinance as submitted for council approval tonight. We do believe the fee is appropriate and is a reasonable fee regarding the real estate licensing. And we'd like to thank Director Blackburn for his engagement with the business community. We felt that sets a good tone for as we talk about transparency and engagement with the business community. We appreciate the new efforts by the city council and the director. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Paul. Just one item. Next year in the session, we're going to be working alongside you quite a bit. You know what I mean? As we work together to rebuild Southern Nevada. So we're looking forward to you and your leadership. Are you being hiring some more people for your team, or what is your lobby team?
We are actually in a process right now with hiring our new contract lobbyists, and we will be staffing up our in-house department in the next few months. And we look forward to working with you in Carson City, of course.
It'd be our pleasure. Hey, would you mind staying after just for the meeting? We've got 3 or 4 items I'd like to ask you something
Of course,
else.
my pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, council. Thank you, Mayor.
Appreciate it. Council, anybody else like to speak on this item?
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, ma'am.
Based on the discussion just now, in addition to the change in the record read by Mr. Blackburn for Section 13 of Ordinance 2683 with regard to combining the real estate broker and real estate agency, I would also like to amend Section 22, which would be the effective date of the ordinance. Instead of making it effective upon publication, it can be effective in 60 days, which would be Wednesday, November 19th.
Oh, that sounds like a long ways from now, doesn't it?
60 days. Oh. Whatever the council's pleasure is, I would just have to amend Section 22 of the ordinance to reflect that.
Yeah, no, I was smiling at Joe. Okay. I appreciate you. So would somebody like to make a motion that
No, move to approve with both amendments.
Right. Actually, I just wanted to address something real fast. I had, I don't know if he's here in the audience. Is there a Mr. Gary Bouchard in the audience by chance? I just thought I'd go ahead and just read what a message. He believes there's an item today's agenda, this with the real estate. He doesn't agree and feels that the working class should be given a break. It says here, tax the rich people. Well, I don't know. I think 60 days should be more than enough, I think, to get the word out. If Mr. Bouchard is out there and listening right, well, we are taxing him.
Well, it's not really a tax. It's something that happens in every other local government. It just was an oversight here. So they're just we just regionalize it. But I understand what you're making the point there. Yeah. Thank you.
I try to speak up for the little people there, Mayor.
Yep. Nope. Perfect. Great. Chair will take a motion.
Move to approve.
Just cast your vote. Motion passes.
Ordinance number 2684, an ordinance related to zoning, amending an existing PUD and replacing ordinance number 2502, which reclassified approximately 5.23 plus minus acres, ZN 9705 Clayton Park, by allowing up to 43 residential dwellings in an office warehouse mixed-use development for property located at the southwest corner of Clayton Street and Colton Avenue, and providing for other matters properly relating thereto for possible action.
Councilman Wagner, is in your district any comments or questions on this item? Chair will take a motion. Please cast your vote. Well, sweetheart, is this something that you have to start filling out these blue cards?
She has one filled out for the second public forum.
She's at the public, yeah.
No, but I mean, I'm just saying I can recognize you a little bit more in the future. Item 27, I think we've tabled item 27.
Yes.
And
Yes.
I promise I will have 2 people on this bus shelter advisory. I've already made appointments for these people to come see me, and I will get this off our agenda here. City Manager's report.
Yes, Mr. Mayor and Council, we have 2 presentations tonight. Ms. Douglas Morgan will give the first presentation, and then I'll give the second. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. As part of the City Manager's report, I know you like to hear updates from different departments, so I thought I'd give you a very, very brief overview of the services that the City Attorney's Office currently provides to the city. We are committed to serving with integrity while providing accurate and quality legal presentation. As you know, our office is split into two divisions, the civil division and the criminal division. There are currently 3 attorneys in the civil division and 4 attorneys in the criminal division, and 8 members of support staff that cover both divisions. My office advises the mayor and city council, redevelopment agency, planning commission, North Las Vegas Library District, Parks and Recreation Advisory Board, Utility Advisory Board, Citizens Advisory Committee, and the newly created Arts and Culture Committee. So we provide legal advice to all of those boards and commissions, in addition to providing day-to-day advice to all of the department directors and division heads. Even with our minimal staff, we appear at all levels in all jurisdictions, all the way from the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals down to, of course, our North Las Vegas Municipal Court. We currently, in our civil staff with 3 attorneys, handle over 85 active litigation files and 36 pre-litigation claims, and review an average of 36 contracts each month, in addition to ordinances and various policies as our cities continue to grow and have a culture change with different policies and procedures going forward. Additionally, we also, of course, prosecute all misdemeanors that occur in the city of North Las Vegas. In August of 2014, this last month, we participated in over 1,200 arraignments, prepared orally or writtenly over 600 motions, covered over 1,400 sessions while people were actually incarcerated, handled over 600 pretrial hearings, and had handled, either disposed of, or actually went forward with over 180 trials. Another very important component of the city attorney's office of the criminal division is to ensure that we're making contacts with the victims of the crimes that are being prosecuted across the street. And in 1 month alone, we actually made contacts with over 234 victims of crimes, and that is really the work of only 2 people. One of those members is actually Detective Martin, who the police department actually funds, but actually is housed in the criminal division of the city attorney's office, who is of tremendous help to us. And another one is Adriana Van Berserk, who is the only victim witness advocate we have in our office, and those 2 work tirelessly after hours, before hours, making sure that they contact as many victims of crime as possible. So that is a very brief overview of our office. We have a very small staff. We're lean, but we are mean, and we work very hard, and we're very close, and we ensure to make sure that all of the city's interests are being protected. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Just a question on your criminal division. Now that the court has become a court of record, is that affecting how your division operates, and is it creating more work, less work?
I wouldn't say necessarily it's been creating more work. It's great to know that, whatever objections are made are actually being recorded and will be transcribed if there's been appeals. We have had significantly more appeals this year than have been done in the past, but that is because we had a practice change and a policy change to appeal if we felt that one of the decisions were being rendered were not proper or erroneous. We have not had to appeal since October 1st. We have not had any appeals since we actually became a court of record. But I think that it encourages everyone, prosecutors, court staff, to ensure that they're making the best case possible going forward, even for defense bar as well. And so it's been nothing but positive. Our witnesses are being paid appropriately, and things have been great. It was a great decision, great leadership for council to make that decision, and it was a long time coming.
Thank you. Any other comments? I'll give one. You show me a good church that wins, or a elected official that wins, or a Boy Scout troop that wins, and I'll show you a leader. You're a fantastic leader, and you're a great asset to the city, and we appreciate you so much for what you give, almost to the point that we're embarrassed that you take as much time as you do to help us when you have such a young family. But we want you to know you're a treasure to our city. Thank you very much. City manager, anything else?
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor and Council. I have one presentation. This presentation is on a demolition project. As you recall, last November, you approved the transition, or actually reprogramming of money of Neighborhood Stabilization Funds, NSP1, into a demolition project. To date, there's approximately $400,000 that's been transferred into this, identified for this effort. it's taken approximately 3 years to get us here to make things happen. We've been able to establish a protocol that meets the federal requirements. We've identified approximately 26 homes in our community that are chronic nuisances that have caught on fire, some multiple times. One have had as many as 3 fires. Our first responders are going out there fighting fires, protecting adjacent property. The police department has been on hundreds of calls for these homes. The first 10 homes that we did an assessment on, there were 150 calls for service by the police department, several hundred by code enforcement. This work effort was put together by Building Safety, Code Enforcement, and Neighborhood and Leisure Services as far as utilization of the grant. The cost recovery is the monies we spend, we're tracking it, as well as staff time, and we will be leaning the properties to ensure that the money is returned back to the city. There may be at some point in time that the city will take ownership of the properties if people default on the monies due, but that'll be a bridge we'll cross down the road. We're also looking to secure more funds with NSP. We've received local and national news on this project. We have had several entities that manage the NSP funds and asked us how we did it. So it's very exciting to be able to lead locally and nationally on the outcome, the true benefit to this program. Here are several of the properties that we identified. As you recall, there was media, again, the media that I just mentioned. Some people saw pictures of their properties on the news and said, I guess the city's serious, they are going to demolish them. We've had 66 properties in the last 2 months where the property owners have either came in to pull permits to have them remodeled or gone ahead and demolished them themselves. We have been giving notice to property owners for years, but without lack of funds, we couldn't proceed forward with the demolition. So we're there now since we have the funds and we're proceeding. There's some duration of time that varies on these. Most of it is due to asbestos testing and then abatement per property, and then from there they can proceed with demolition. Here's some before and after pictures of one of the properties on Balzar. Again, the forefront picture is the property after the demolition has taken place. The 2 background pictures are how it looked before. Neighbors had put up with this for months, if not years, on certain properties. So they're very pleased. They've came out and acknowledged the true enhancement to their neighborhood. Here's another example as well, too, of how the homes look. Multifamily properties also on Tonopah. So on Tonopah there were I believe there are 5 properties total that either have been or will be demolished. So we're excited on the significant impact it will have on the neighborhood. As we were talking about the fleet project earlier, it reminded me of how much time and money the city has spent on properties such as these. So it would be nice to be able to quantify for the future the true savings financially to the city for not having to do calls for service, for all those 3 departments that I've mentioned earlier.
Great.
Yes, sir.
So we demolish these, and then we bill the property owner for the services, and then if they don't pay, we take the property. Is that what it is?
We hire a contractor to demolish the properties through an RFP program. The contractor demolishes it, and as soon as they bill us, we file a lien on the property. So the property owner can't sell it in this improved state without us getting our funds first. Most of these properties, the property owners are not current on their taxes. If they don't pay their taxes in 3 years, the county could file a lien on auction the property. And at that point, we'd be able to, at a first option, to be able to proceed forward if we choose to.
Okay, thank you. Great question. Can they sign over the property to the city and not go through the auction process?
They could sign over to the city, but as all accounting goes, we need to make sure that we track this, that there's NSP money that was spent on the property, and if the city benefits at some point in the future, the monies would have to be transferred over to that budget. It's not city general fund money that's being used on the project, so we just, again, have to be stewards of the federal money that's being utilized. And we could request that it qualify for another program that CDBG may have, and it could be a win-win at that point as well. But it'd have to be a case by case.
And if nobody bid on the property?
We could.
for a dollar or whatever, you could, whatever, I guess the appraisal value is the county would ask for?
There'd be appraised value. There'd also be taxes due by the county. So that would be part of it. The other part, again, would be the funds. It'd be a first priority lien for the NSP money. So that would have to be
I see.
recognized.
I have a question. Does this work the same way if a homeowner has a house like pictures, but they walk away from that house? Because the bank's not going to put money into a house, something like this, to repair it. So does this kind of work the same cycle?
Yes, it does. The same thing follows that we do on normal neighborhood enhancements for minor property maintenance. File the lien, and if somebody chooses to walk away, we've had some people ask us, can we just sign the property over to you? Okay, yes, we can proceed in that manner. The importance of being able to file the liens on the properties at this point, some of them are owned by banks, and if they see the property improved, then they try to turn it before we secure a lien on the property. That's the end of my presentation.
Mr. Blackburn, unfortunately, many of these properties, of course, are in Ward 1, but I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for all your hard work that you've done so far. You know, I've been, at times, I'm sure I was driving your code enforcement guys crazy. People may not know this, but at times I've driven around my neighborhoods, right, and I've intervened, I've called up, I've sent Mr. Blackburn notices of things that I saw that were troublesome to me. I'm very happy to see that one property where, very unfortunately, there was a police-involved shooting, that property is now being reduced to a pile of sticks, which I'm sure will be cleaned off very soon. It's really hard I didn't realize before I got into this job just what a magnet these properties are for all sorts of nefarious activities. And I can only imagine how much people suffered and how much my community suffered from having these. So I wanted to really thank you so very much for all your diligent efforts. Also, I want to thank you in front of everybody and make it a point of record that, of course, Mr. Blackburn, his involvement does not end with simply knocking these places down. He's also expressed working forward in the future to where we can actually change some of our codes to be able to build substantial properties there that will house members of our community. The way the codes read right now, oftentimes we would not be able to build modern houses, so to speak, on these properties. But again, you know, Mr. Blackburn has been looking forward. He and his team are looking forward and to a time when we'll be able to build substantial houses that will help be part of a new community. And I wanted to thank you for all that, Mr. Blackburn.
Well, thank you very much. We appreciate that. Again, this is a team effort. We don't do any of these efforts without expert legal advice. Their dedication, involvement, revising, reading the contracts, the police department, all their input on these properties. So the true benefit to the organization, it would be hard to quantify the dollars, but again, the benefit to the community, and we're all on the same team. We've tried to be part of the solution as opposed to part of the problem, so we're trying to help. Thank you.
Thank you for your leadership then.
Any other questions?
Well, not so much a question, but I too want to say that this is just, you know, a wonderful program. It is doing a tremendous job at reducing the blight in some neighborhoods that desperately need improvement. I think you guys are doing a wonderful job. I know Tom Martins from your department has already contacted me to see if we can start working with some nonprofits in the area to see if we can't work on working with the owners on putting some new buildings back on those properties and increasing the tax rolls and further improving the look of those neighborhoods. So I think it's a great program that started and now it's snowballing, and hopefully it's going to bring a lot of change to our city. So thank you very much. You've done a great job.
Thank you very much, Director. Is that your final report?
Yes, sir. Mayor and Council, it is.
Thank you very much. Council items. Ms. Woods, I know that you have an announcement.
Well, I just want to thank all of you for your support. The Nevada League of Cities is going to be holding its annual conference here. We're jointly hosting it with the city of Las Vegas, but it will be held at the Texas Station next week. And I thank all of you for your support in helping us get that done, and attendance, and the mayor's committed to opening remarks, and Councilman Wagner has committed to helping with one of the tour buses and giving a little idea, the little spiel about the city, and I know Councilwoman Goins Brown's coming and Councilman Barone is coming, so I appreciate all your support and from staff too, because I know Donna Gamble has done a tremendous amount of work, Terry Sheridan, a lot of you. This has not been easy, but I thank you so much for all the hard work that's gone into it. Mary Ellen Donner helping us. We are going to have a country barbecue out at Craig Ranch Park as part of this event. And the second night will be hosted by the City of Las Vegas at the Mob Museum. So it should hopefully be a lot of fun and very educational. So thank you very much to staff and to council.
Great, looking forward to it. Now, I understand at the end of this, and the first of next year, you will be the next state president. What will that do for North Las Vegas, or are you going to be out traveling throughout the state and representing?
I certainly will be a little bit more than normal, but it certainly will give us greater access to the League of Cities and to what the other cities are doing and how we can work together and hopefully cooperate and share and exchange ideas and just move both our city and the overall state forward. So
that'll be great. That's
Should be
wonderful
very
to have
promising.
you in that leadership position.
Thank you.
This is the second public forum. Oh, pardon me, sir.
Can I have a quick little thing? Just, I'm so sorry. I know I've been listening to my own voice quite here, but just have three quick announcements. Number one, I just wanted to invite everyone to the Graffiti Town Hall. That'll be tomorrow right here in these fantastic little city chambers at 6 p.m. And I hope we have lots of information that people find useful. I want to remind everyone, if you haven't already gotten an invitation, our good friend here to the south, the Councilman Bob Coffin, he's having a ceremony regarding the ceremonial naming of Camino Cesar Chavez, which is formerly known as, well, actually it continues being known as Pecos. But of course, there's a ceremonial naming to it. It's this Saturday, the 20th at 10 a.m. And the best way to describe it is going to be at the corner of Washington and Pecos, I guess, Freedom Park, right? And I'd also like to announce that I'm looking forward to the discussion of the City of North Las Vegas' own project to follow suit with our sister city to the south in the October 1st meeting. And I hope that we can have a very special little surprise for people just before the actual meeting. If things will go the way we want, if you like horses, this will be the place to be in the valley on that day, on October 1st. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Any more council report? Seeing none, this is the second public forum of the meeting. If you'd like to come address the council, this would be your time to do it. State your name for the record. And we'd ask you to limit your speaking to 3 minutes. I've got 4 people here. Miss Carter, if you'd like to make your way here, I'll while you're coming down, I'll have Faye Knight. Is she here still? Oh, here, come on, Miss Carter. I'm sorry.
Good evening, Doris Carter, 1626 Davis Place. Tonight I'd like to speak on a subject that you, the mayor, asked at the last meeting. What do we have to do to get more money? Okay, I say stop. First, you have bookkeeper department and you have other department heads and whatnot. Get all their figures and whatnot, find out where we stand. Then everything else, once you find out exactly what we have to work with, then you go from there, prioritize. And once we know what we have to work with, then we can figure out what our next direction is going to be. And I think that will open the door so we can actually move forward.
I will respond to you, and you're exactly right. We have done that. We have balanced our budget with the state. We just got done with the financial summit. City Council told staff where they wanted to go what directions they were moving in. They were open to the public meetings, and we are being very diligent at doing everything possible. But some things slip in sometimes, like lawsuits and those kind of things that you can't plan for. So we build contingencies, and we have funds set aside for certain things. One thing we are doing to let you know, though, if there's any Regional Transportation Commission money, we're going after it. If there's any federal grants, we're going after it. We're supplementing our budget by a lot of grants and regional projects in our city. I hope someday to be able to have you come in and say, we got so much money we don't want to do. What to do with it? Come help us. But right
That
now,
would make me very happy.
but as you notice, Miss Reynolds is needing a person in the fleet department. You know what I mean? So we're cognizant of the fact that the public's watching us, and you're letting us know, keep an eye on it. And I promise you we are.
Okay, question. How strong is our network department?
Network,
Yes, network.
IT,
Get the word around what we're doing, what we're trying to do, what we hope we can get into.
I'm missing something. One more
Network. That's the key word, network.
time. I'm asking, is it in the IT department with all the computers and all that kind of stuff? Is that what you're talking about? Or-
Whatever network avenue there is, take advantage of it.
Okay.
Okay, because take a look around, and even when the meeting first started tonight, there were not enough people here. We need to be able to get more people up in here, find out exactly what's going on in the little nooks and crannies around in the city, and be able to move on it. But first, we got to make sure that everything is prioritized.
Yeah.
What needs to be done first, and what follows after that, what you can do and what you can't do.
Yeah.
And if you don't have it, you can't do it.
Well, I can't make people come to the meeting, but I can tell you, you can tell a little bit by the size of the agenda. When I first got here, we were in the middle of just the worst economic times. And I think Councilman Wagner told me once they had a meeting that just almost went 18 minutes. There was just, they were dead. Now you'll recognize we've been here 2.5 hours. So we are working on so many different things that we are doing, and that is a lot of networking going on throughout the whole region and the community. So we are very, very active at getting our North Las Vegas priorities out in front of everybody we can.
Okay. But you know, sometimes you have things in the back of your mind, and if it isn't said where people can hear it, it goes unnoticed.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to make sure that that was out. You asked the question, I figured I'd speak on it. That way, the people that do come, maybe some of them can speak to other people and have them come. So if 2 people invite 2 people, it keeps building until you get to the point what you're looking for.
Yeah. Well, there are some issues that do bring out a lot more people than other issues, you know. But we appreciate you coming. That's very important to us that you've recognized your public spirit.
I didn't forget.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Next, Lydia Garrett. Ms. Garrett.
Good evening. My name is Lydia Garrett. I live at 1921 West McDonald Avenue, North Las Vegas, Nevada 89032. I am the president of the North Valley Leadership Team. Our group represents 7 neighborhoods and over 1,100 households. And I'm here to speak today about what North Valley has been working on with the residents. You know, we meet every second Saturday of the month at Pearson from 10 to 12, and we talk about issues that are going on in our community. For example, crime and trying to raise our property values and increase awareness of this. The lady in the wheelchair was just talking about networking, about what's going on in our community, speaking to our elected officials, and talking about how can we improve our community and our neighborhood as a group. We have been meeting constantly since 2006, and I'm here today. One of the things that we needed to do so we could move forward with our plan was create a nonprofit. So I'm proud here to announce tonight that the North Valley Leadership Team also is the North Valley Community Development Corporation, a nonprofit. So with that, that allows us to sign a lease or apply for a grant or accept donations, open bank accounts, and those type of things, so we can move forward with what the residents wanted to do. We've also been working hard in the community since 2006, working with the residents to come up with a plan to redevelop our neighborhood. And we will be submitting a plan to council in the near future about what the residents would like to see redeveloped in our community. One of the other things we worked with was the Buena Vista Springs senior building. And those seniors came to our meeting, and, you know, they came to council and they were complaining about how they were being treated in the building and how they weren't, the management company wasn't doing repairs, and that if they complained about things that they were being intimidated, that their rent would be raised or that they would be evicted if they continued just to ask for regular maintenance on the building. As of September 1st, there is a new management team there, another nonprofit, and I was there at a meeting on Monday, and I got to see the new management. They were talking to the seniors with the respect that they deserve, and I saw many improvements. They've painted, they've put in new lighting. I've seen where they've put in new furniture. They have trimmed the trees. They've addressed security issues with the residents. It's just a total turnaround. It looks so much better. It even smells better when you walk in. So I want to thank the council and the mayor for supporting us during this time when the seniors needed your help, and our code enforcement department to come out and support those seniors, and the other elected officials that came out as well, some county officials, and Congressman Horsford came to support that effort. And if we couldn't have got those seniors taken care of if it wasn't for the council and the mayor. So thank you. Let's see what else. Oh, there was also, I noticed at that meeting, the new management, there were issues. I don't know if you remember, there was a man that came in and said that he was overpaying his rent, and he had overpaid for 16 months and he was looking for a refund. He did receive his refund. And the other residents that basically the new management company told the residents, as of September 1st, if you owed a balance, it would be no longer. You don't owe a balance anymore. So from September 1st on, they would continue with the new accounting practices to make sure all the money was accounted for. So that was a good thing as well for the new management. So those seniors told me to come here and tell you guys thank you. One other thing was about the demolition. At my last meeting, there was a resident that I believe he's some type of contractor in the community, and he was asking about the demolition and how would his business be able to tear those homes down, or how would he get into that, I guess on the RFP, or how would he get into that project to have it torn down, because he lives in the community and he has a vested interest there, and he also does this kind of work. So I was hoping that you could give a little bit more information on that RFP process, and also could you give us, like, let us know when those bids go out so we can let our contractors know they can bid for those demolition of those homes. And basically, I think that's all I have for today.
What else are you guys working on now? Are you?
Yes, we are actively working on a drawing for the Buena Vista Site 1 and 2. The residents, we have a community action plan, and we gave that action plan to an architect that donated his services, and we're asking him to render a drawing for us based on the things that the residents said that they wanted in the community. So we are actively working on that, and we plan on submitting that to council in the very near future so we can move forward on the development at Buena Vista Springs.
Great, thank you very much.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
that report.
Thank you. Okay, I sure will.
Thank you for waiting to the end of the meeting to give us that report. It's been a long meeting. Thank you. Faye Knight, Miss Knight, are you still here?
3319 Coleman Street, North Las Vegas, Nevada, 89032. I've been there since 1972. I don't know, do I just speak with what is on the agenda, or do I speak?
This is your time to address the city
good.
council.
Okay. We had a meeting on August 14. This man came in at Silver Mesa, and he wants to build a grow house in our neighborhood, and where it's a big church there also, and we have any number of schools in our neighborhood. And we had this meeting, and we told them absolutely no way that they're going to build this in our neighborhood. Now, it's an existing building there on Clayton and Coleman, in between the water towers there, and that's where he wants it. And that is ridiculous to me and the neighborhood, that we're going to have a grow house of marijuana in our neighborhood. We're not against the medical marijuana, but you know it's going to go further than that. It's going to be used for more than medical. And I told him, take the medical marijuana place down on Apex and Las Vegas Boulevard where it belongs. It does not belong in our neighborhood. And everybody in our neighborhood build their own homes. And we've been there since, well, it was not a neighborhood when I came, because there was just 2 houses on my street when I came there. One is a business now, and the other house has been torn down. But now everyone built it, and they got big, nice homes there. And it's going to bring the cost of the homes down when that gets in there.
Are they planning on selling or growing, or what are they?
Growing.
Mayor, I was at that town hall meeting, and their position was to get feedback from the residents, and I have not heard from them since then. I don't know if staff has either, but they said if more opposed it, they don't know if they were going to take the time to move forward with it. They were supposed to have another community meeting. I don't know if they had. So I haven't heard from them. Like I said, I don't know if staff has, so I don't even know if they're going to move forward with their project.
As far as I know, it hasn't been a meeting.
There hasn't.
It hasn't been a meeting as far
Not
as
since
I
that
know,
first
but
one.
I don't know because I've been out of town.
There hasn't.
And okay.
So I don't know if they're going to even move forward, because they were saying if more people were opposed, it's not worth their fight, because they don't have the funds to go and build their own building. That's why they wanted to use that existing building. But if too many of the residents were against it, they said they would not go forward.
Okay. Oh, okay. Well, that's good news. Okay.
But with that said, I'm not sure, because I haven't heard back.
Well, I haven't either, because the person was there said he going to email me some information that hasn't happened yet. So if he lied about that, I know what's going to happen later on down the road. And plus, he's from Seattle, Washington. I told him to build it in Seattle, Washington. Don't bring it here. He said he and his family are going to move here in Nevada. I said, where you going to live? He said in Las Vegas. I said, why not North Las Vegas? Since you're going to build a grow house in North Las Vegas.
I agree with you. I will say that Ms. Goins here is very active in that community.
Okay.
If you want to get her card or get on her
You have it. I gave it to you.
Yes.
I can give you another one if you like.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And another thing, the reason I'm up here again is because back in the day, when we had our city hall on Lake Mead, wherever, Civic Center, everyone received an agenda. That's why this lady said that it's not too many people here. The reason is nobody know about it. A lot of people in my neighborhood does not have computers, and they don't know whether they need to put a name on a list or anything like that. No one has told them that. So I suggested earlier that put it on the water bill, that it would be no more agendas mailed out for these meetings, and have it in red.
The water bill is only so big, but I will tell you, we went through a very tough financial time, but we do get information out, and that's something to consider what you're saying.
Yeah, put it, because everybody get a water bill. I
Yeah.
guarantee you, they get a water bill. But this is why it's not too many people here, because they don't know the meetings.
Good point.
So if you put it on a water bill, just a little note there. You don't have to put a big page. I know it's enough room on the water bill because I read mine. And just put it on there that no more agendas going to be mailed out. You have to call us to get a registered to be mailed out, or go on the internet and put the internet on website. We would appreciate that. And you see, watch and see. There's going to be a whole lot of people here when they know about it.
Okay. You seem to think a lot more people would make my job easy.
Oh, of course. All the mayors, they make all the mayors' agenda easier.
Well, give me an example. I've got 3 nice people that want to speak to me this evening, and then we've got Shondell Newsom.
Thank you so much.
So, actually, ladies and gentlemen, this is our last person that has asked to come speak to the council tonight. The reason I held him last is because he doesn't live in North Las Vegas, and he should. So everybody else in North Las Vegas got ahead of you tonight, Shondell.
Thank you, but my business was there, right? Shondell Newsom, Some New Marketing, 1951 Stella Lake Street is our business address. First, I want to say that Councilwoman Wood, it's pretty exciting to hear that the League of Cities will go to Texas Station. As the former marketing director, everybody told us we were crazy to build a event center there. So it's always exciting to hear when people bring stuff out of town to North Las Vegas and that Texas Station. Good evening, and our firm has been contracted by the city of North Las Vegas to provide the market study for Buena Vista Springs 1 and 2, and we're right on track. We really want to commend James Hay and Kathy Thomas Gibson, although she's no longer here. They have really been great with giving us access to different city staff to help us with that particular study. So we'll be putting together a full report next month for council, and that's all I really had. Thank you.
Welcome aboard. Thank you very much. I always enjoy seeing you, my friend.
Thank you.
Is there anything else that needs to come before the council? No one else seems to be coming up here. So if that, we'll close the meeting. Meeting adjourned. Hey, we're meeting for like 15 minutes.